So, good morning everyone. I am Ken Jorin Zablan and I am the last reporter of the Group 3 and I'm going to tackle about Japan returns to isolation. Now, a new feudalism under strong leaders. Now, from 1467 to 1568 Common Era, there is a period of Japanese history called the Warring States. The Warring States period was a turbulent and violent period of Japanese history when rival warlords or daimyo fought bitterly in Japan, where you have all of these very powerful samurai leaders that will take land for themselves and set up basically small little kingdom, and these leaders of the samurai are called daimyo. Daimyo were large landowners that the shogun gave land to, and they were also the leaders of samurai. When we talk about shogun, they are the powerful ruler. The shogun maintained power over his large territory. And the daimyo, a Japanese word meaning great names. Dai meaning big or great, and myo name great name. That's why it is called great names, where daimyo, feudal landowners equivalent to medieval European lords. The daimyo command the samurai, which is a distinct class of swordmen trained to be devoted to the shogun. So, muna kong ginaingon ganina, ang mga daimyo, sila ang mga warrior chieftains leader of samurai group. Then, they built castles and created armies, fought each other for territory. Now, naabot ang time nga ang mga samurai were fighting one another. One daimyo would actually kill the shogun and then become the shogun and then rule Japan military for a little bit and distribute land. And then some of the daimyo would fight some more, and then a daimyo would kill the shogun and then he would become shogun, and then that happens for about 100 years ago. So, ang anak kagubot ing atong panahuna. Now, one of the particular daimyo who is going to seize power is Oda Nobunaga. Oda Nobunaga seized Kyoto in 1586. Is going to end a period of warring states and going to eliminate all of his enemies with a new weapon, and that is actually the gunpowder. Now, he eventually going to commit something called seppuku. Seppuku is related to Japanese code of Toshido, and the idea is if you dishonest yourself so much, then the only way to regain your own dignity and your own power is actually to commit suicide when you take this specific knife, when you basically stab yourself. And then, imong dunggabon imong kagalingon, and then after nimo mabuhat, ma-regain na nimo imong honor because imo manggipatay imong kagalingon. Kay para pod na ma-remove ang mga dishonor na imong nabuhat. Now, before Nobunaga kills himself, Nobunaga's best general was named Toyotomi Hideyoshi. And not only he's going to be the force behind Nobunaga's elimination of his enemies with the addition of gunpowder, but he also invaded Korea in 1592. Now, what eventually can happen is one of Nobunaga's daimyo is going to kill or take over the position of shogun, and that's gonna be Tokugawa Ieyasu. Tokugawa Ieyasu becomes a shogun, and he's actually going to complete the unification of Japan when he takes over and become a shogun. Now, Tokugawa Ieyasu, to make sure that this period of warring state doesn't happen again, and to make sure that he doesn't have large lands owning warlords fighting him or causing trouble, what he does is he required his daimyo, which he gives Lantube to spend every other year in the new capital that he establishes at a place called Edo, or modern-day Tokyo. And what he does is he makes sure that he can keep tabs on his daimyo. Life in Tokugawa, Japan. Now, in Tokugawa, Japan, there's gonna be advancement of culture. Confucian ideas are going to come into Japanese society. Those ideas of respect, there's actually going to shift to an urban society away from an agricultural society. In fact, Tokyo or Edo at that time is actually gonna have 1 million people and one of the largest cities in the world. During that time, women begin to work. Women found jobs in entertainment, textile, manufacturing, and publishing. Some other cultural things that gonna come out is that haiku poetry. Haiku poetry is a type of short form poetry originally from Japan. Haiku today are written by authors worldwide. And the other is kabuki theater. Kabuki theater, it is a classical form of Japanese dance drama. Kabuki theater is also known for its heavily stylized performance that often glamorous costumes worn by performers and for the elaborate kumadori makeup worn by the performers. Next is the Europe and Japan. Let's see what happened when these two cultures combined. Now, the first contact with Europeans is actually in the 1500s and it was actually a mistake. Sayop kuno. Kaya nga namang sayop. Portuguese sailors just end up washing up on the shores with their boats and it's kind like wala sila kabalo kung asa sila dapita ni dunggo, yung asa dapita ni abot ang ilahang gisakyan nga barko. Wala sila kabalo kung asa ang lugaraha. And then this is the first contact Japanese have with Europeans. And when Europeans come, they gonna have trade and diffusion, and two new weapons are going to be introduced. They introduced into Japan, that's going to be the cannons and muskets. But another thing that's going to come with the contact from Europe are missionaries. Now, there is this new belief, or actually the pattern that we see in European expansionism and in European imperialism is when European expand to other places around the world, they bring missionaries. So, kung European, bisag asa na sila mangadto, magdala din na sila og mga misyonero. Kaya nga naman, they bring missionaries, and the reasonably is the missionaries basically soften up that kingdom to be dominated by Europe. Because when you said missionaries, it's going to spread the ideas of European culture, spread the European beliefs, and especially the Christianity. So, once nga naay missionaries, naasab sila kauban na European soldiers because the missionaries can soften up the people to European culture and ideas. Now, the first missionary who came to Japan is named Francis Xavier, and he actually successful converts 300,000 people in Japan to Christianity. Karon, samtang nagpadayon og pagtudlo ang mga Europeans, samtang nagpadayon sila og tudlo sa ilang mga cultures, ilang mga beliefs o kanang about sa Christianity, nakita ni Tokugawa Ieyasu nga mo ni nakadalag ka ng gubot, mo ni nakadalag ka ng wala na nag-follow ang uban ng mga Japanese sa ilahang kaugalingon nga culture. So mao to para niya, it is a threat para sa ilahang kingdom. So ato nga time, if you have a subculture who is denying and rejecting the cultural practices, traditional cultural practices of Japan, and so iyang giban ang Christianity. He kicks out the missionaries and he violently persecuted Japanese Christians. So sugod ato, Tokugawa Ieyasu votes out the missionaries, starts persecuting Japanese Christians and bans Christianity. He sees up the whole reason who I have to deal with this problem is because of Europeans. So to make sure that his power is solidified, he basically makes Japan isolationist and he stops contact with Europe. So ari na nagsugod ang pag-isolate sa Japan. The only place in Japan where other countries could trade the Japanese is the Nagasaki. No? Ang Nagasaki, muna siya ang isa ra ka port. There were only two countries who can do it, were the Dutch Holland, the Netherlands, and China. Now, not only two countries allowed to trade in Japan, but Japanese people were forbidden to leave the country. Dili sila pwede nga mo leave sa country. Di na sila pwede mo gawas sa ilahang nasod. Di na sila pwede maka-adto sa laing lugar kung dili sa ilahang region nga nasod nga Japan. It is because if they leave the country and goes to another place and they pick up the traditions and clothes, costumes and cultural practices of that place, they could bring it and back and that could influence Japanese society, and it could dilute Japan society, and for 200 years Japan is isolated from the rest of the world. So mo to hinungdan di ay ang pagsakop sa Europe, ang pagkuan sa mga Europeans mo day naka-cost kung anong na-isolate ang nasod nga Japan. So that's all for today, guys. That's the end of my report. Thank you and hope you learned something from it.